Hello, everyone. Let's break open God's Word on the first Sunday of Lent and hear the temptations in a whole new way.
This is from the book of Luke. Filled with the Holy Spirit, Jesus returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the desert for 40 days to be tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and when they were over, he was hungry. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command this stone to become bread." Jesus answered him, "It is written, 'One does not live by bread alone.'" Then he took him up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a single instant. The devil said to him, "I shall give you all this power and their glory, for it has been handed over to me, and I may give it to whomever I wish. All this will be yours if you worship me." Jesus said to him in reply, "It is written, 'You shall worship the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve.'" Then he led him to Jerusalem, made him stand on the parapet of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, 'He will command his angels concerning you to guard you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone.'" Jesus said to him in reply, "It also says, 'You shall not put the Lord your God to the test.'" When the devil had finished every temptation, he departed from him for a time.
40 days of Lent towards transformation. I use the word towards versus to because transformation is an ongoing process. We go back, we go forward, and we have to try to constantly renew ourselves as we try to transform our own personal life. So Lent gives us a focused time to look at it again. Why is it important, 40 days towards transformation? Because if we do not actively seek to transform ourselves, we cannot deal in a really healthy way with what's going on in life today. It's been a very difficult time for many of us. When you think about what's going on, there is the whole question of the COVID virus, the question of the political divide in our country, the question of the intensity of climate change coming and going in different ways and bigger ways. And then there is the issue of our own personal issues we're dealing with, but also the issues that people that we live with and work with that are also dealing with. You see them depressed, angry, frustrated. People almost are just sort of giving up, And so we say, wow, what can we do? And I say to you, listen, what all this is just symptoms. It's symptoms which is pointing to that the system we're using to process life is not working. It's not working. We have within us a basic operating system to process life. And that operating system is the ego. And this ego, it means very simply edging God out. It's part of who we are when that's operating. But it's a simplistic way in which we're going to deal with life. And so what I want to do is help you to appreciate this operating system, which I will call 1.0. This operating system, 1.0. It's an analogy that I like to try, see if I can pull that off today. And in that process, we have to recognize that as this operating system, first that it's rooted in self, but it's also rooted in your basic primitive instincts of self-preservation, self-interest, and self-definition. And it will always be looking to see, am I going to be protected? Am I going to be able to get what I want? Am I going to be able to define who I am and be accepted? And what happens is, in the culture, this operating system 1.0 is very easily influenced by the culture. It manipulates it. It brings it to a sense of what it wants to do in order to achieve its goal in culture, whatever it is, the values of culture. So it's very willing to be manipulated by the culture. And so the culture has much more power than even sometimes yourself. And so what I want you to appreciate is to realize that that system, that operating system 1.0, is a very simplistic way of dealing with complexity in culture, situations and issues. And so we got to look at that in a much deeper way to begin to appreciate it. What the processing system says to us is we're going to look at things in two ways. One is, first, it's going to be either black or white. It's going to be right or wrong, or it's going to be the way that it's us against them, or them, or we and them, it breaks it down into small little pieces so that we can process it. But the problem is, it loses its sense of reality because the complexity of it is the combination of both and, not just separated out. So we're able to get little ways of dealing with it, but it's not going to sustain us when it begins to get really complex, when we have to deal with issues like dying, death. We have to deal with issues which we talk about is divorce, or if illness or major losses in our life, it just can't handle it, and it begins to break about and break down. And so I want you to really consider the question, is it time for you to upgrade your operating system? Is it time? Recognizing that even the question of faith, that operating system, is basically a system that makes God small, and also what it does is it makes us see God as transactional. If we do this, you'll give us that, And so even the religion piece, the faith piece, just cannot really help us the way we need to be helped when we have to deal with the complexity of life and the reality of even what we're dealing with. So again, I ask you, is it time for you during this Lent to say, maybe I got to change the system that I'm working out of, which was the instincts with the influence of culture, and a religion which basically is the creating God into our image and likeness, and seeing God relating to us as we relate to one another. Is that working for you? If it's not, maybe this is the time to make the change. And so what I'm asking is, the transformation is developing another operational system I call 2.0. And that is not rooted in the self or being self-absorbed. It is rooted primarily in God, so I call it the spirit self. In other words, we're no longer relying on ourselves to pull things off, to pull ourselves away home bootstraps, to basically say we are in charge of our own destiny. It's not that. What it is now is saying, how can I touch into the God that's within me? How can I begin to relate out of that God in a whole new way so I can live freer and love more profoundly? So that's what needs to take place, that movement from the old operating system, which we're born with, which we overuse a lot of times, into a new operating system, going from 1.0 to 2.0. So I ask you to consider that. Now, there are some things that might help you to do that. And so I'm going to ask you to look at a few things during Lent. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, can you please read in our book, and if you haven't got the book, get the book, chapters 11 to 22. First thing, just because that's your spiritual reading, 11 to 22. And then also, can you basically begin to look at the fulcrum in the book and to see that when you're heavy on control, which is the old system, you're light on love. The new systems, when you're heavy on love, you're light on control. And so what I need you to do is look at and see where you find yourself, not as judging, but your starting point, so where you need to move or what you need to look at. So it's an assessment tool. The second is meditation. Can you learn to let go? Meditation, the thoughts and the emotions are always running by you. Meditation says, no, you don't have to grab onto them. You don't have to hold on to them. You can let them go. And it gives you a process to help you do that, to empty yourself. And so look at that. And then from the fasting from negativity, that negativity rises out of the primitive instincts and the threat. And if somebody hurts you, that negativity just flows. And so I want you to look at that too, and to begin to say, how do I begin to fast from negativity so I can be emptied by that? And then feasting on loving not only from our own, but beyond our own, to see the expansiveness of love as you read those chapters, and to begin to say, yes, I want to love, and I want to really reach out unconditionally in loving others. And then I want you to help you to tie that all together, to use the little wonderful expression we use in our book called empty, fill, and spill. My dear brothers and sisters, there's 4 things that empty you. First is it's that really sense of what? Of basically negativity. You practice that, fasting from that empties you. You got to get rid of that negativity to give room for God. Then loving empties you as you reach yourself out to others. And then suffering does that too. Suffering helps you to do that. And so what I want you to try to realize that as you're being emptied, let yourself be loved. Give up control. Let yourself be filled with God's love and mercy. Just let it pour into you from within you so it can spill out to others and you can love in a much greater way. So the goal of transformation is to allow God to work in and through you so you can show great love and great mercy, not only to your own, but to all. That's what it's moving towards. My dear brothers and sisters, it's a process. You're going to fall back into the old system, but you don't have to stay there. You can move again to the new operating system 2.0. That's what Jesus showed us. It is possible because that's what he did when he faced his temptations in the desert. He had no need to prove himself. He had no need to defend himself. And he had no need to show that, listen, I could deal with this, with life. So again, because he trusted his God. Thank you so much.